Squatting is a huge part of a lot of workouts, and it is also really, really great exercise. Now, different squats do have slightly different mechanics. So if we're, have a bar, we might hinge forward, which is bending at the hips, versus a goblet squat, we might do a little more with the hips and really keep our trunk upright. But there's some basic things that we can kind of keep with all of them. One of the most important things is to kind of respect your body structure. So we're all structured very, very differently. Some of our hips turn out, some feet turn out. We have lots of different builds. And so we can't try to say that everybody needs to squat with their knees pointed directly forward, okay? Or with their feet shoulder width apart. Some people are better with a narrow squat. Some people are better with a wider squat. Some people are better with their feet turned out, maybe even one foot turned out slightly more than the other. Whatever helps you to squat with the best form might be the best for you. Don't feel like you have to force every squat knees pointed straight forward, okay? Most people don't need that. So you got to kind of find your happy spot. For me, it's definitely turned out. And the other thing we're going to look at, so what I do turn out though, what I'm not doing is turning out and then letting my knees come in. So my knees are still going out over my toes. I just need a wider stance due to my structure and to ankle range of motion limitations. So I'm going to go out this way a little bit. That's the only way I can kind of keep my heels and toes on the ground, which is what you should be looking for. What you want with your squat is you never want to be back. You want to push through your heels some, but you never want to be back so far in your heels that you lose pressure through the ball of that big toe. And you never want to be where your heels are coming up off the ground, okay? So some people who are really, really tight and just can't get the ankle mobility might do better from putting a little something underneath their ankles. So I think that is real important to kind of respect your structure there. The things that we do want is another misnomer or incorrect fallacy that's going on out there is that our knees should never ever come out past our toes. I think as long as we're respecting that heel and toe and respecting where our trunk is and what our trunk is doing, it is okay for your knees to come out over your toes. Our knees come over our toes in daily life. It's almost impossible to go up a step without your knee coming past your toes. So we need to train that to make our body resilient to it. It is normal range of motion. So that just became something that we said for a long time, and it's 100% not true. So please don't stress so much if your knee passes your toes. What I would rather you look at is keeping that 3-point contact, and then also keeping that good trunk form. So you don't want to slump through your squat like and round and tuck your glutes under, and you also don't want to overarch through your squat and let your rib cage come up. So I try to explain to people to kind of think of keeping their rib cage that it's tied to the pelvis, so it has to stay in line with it. Somebody else described it as your rib cage and your pelvis being two bowls stacked on top of each other. If the rib cage is tilted up and the pelvis is tilted down, we don't have good core stability. Let's keep those tilted together. So using good breathing, we can really, and starting in that stacked position, and I'm not talking about slumping, I'm just talking about bringing that rib cage down a little bit, that we can really keep that good neutral position. So what we're gonna do to learn a good squat is, if you're having trouble with the squat form, is to start bottom up, okay? Sometimes it's really, really hard to start from the top down. We can't seem to figure it out. So if we switch it up a little bit and start from the bottom up. So you can either just kind of get into any kind of crazy squat on the floor, however you can, and then try working your way up. But I like to just have us sit on something low. So for me, you can figure out what's a great place for you to start. You might start in a chair, right? Maybe on a step or on a ball. I'm starting on a step with a yoga block, which I'm going to turn this way a little more to make it a little more comfortable for me. Okay, so then what you want to do is stack up your pelvis. Make sure that you don't want to be slumped, because that's impossible. You don't want to be arched either. So nice stacked your bowls. You're going to get your feet underneath you as best you can, keeping that 3-point contact, not gripping with your toes. I actually really like doing these exercises barefoot because it really gives the foot the chance to feel the ground and help give some input back to your nervous system to help figure out the movement. So what you're going to do, I am going to use a little weight for this. You can start without weight. The weight kind of helps remind me to stay upright. So I'm going to get my upright posture, and I'm going to just work on hinging a little bit. So what you're doing in your hinging is you just kind of feel as you're back here, your weight's not really through your legs yet. It's really on your tush. It's not really in your hips and toes. So you're just going to keep your posture still and just bend at the hips till you feel this start to load. You feel the weight really start to go through the heels and the toes. That's where you want to be. So that's where we're going to hinge to. And then from there, we're going to try to go right up and just hover and just hang out there. It's hard. And back down. Okay. I think I lost my rib cage and pelvis because I was talking, so I wasn't breathing well with that. So I'm going to show you one where I just do a good breath. So I'm going to try to work a little more on keeping that a little held in there. So we're going to breathe in. Or actually, I'm going to hip hinge first. Get my good breath in. Blow out. Hover. Slowly lower back down. And you can hover for as long as you can tolerate. So you can hang out there for 10 seconds, whatever you can tolerate there, okay? So then what you can do is once you get the hover, so I'm gonna go back into a hover here. I'm just gonna, now we can hover, hang out, and then see, can I push straight up from that position, okay? And then you're just working from bottom up. So we practice the first part, just kind of hovering there, trying to keep the trunk upright. I do hinge a little bit because of my ankle mobility, so I wouldn't mind people staying a little bit more upright than I'm able to do. And then I'm just going to work, now that I've got it, I'm going to work my way down. So I'm going to, the way to think about going down is the same kind of mechanics. We're going to think about, a lot of times we think about going so far back with the bottom that I don't think that's always the best. So I kind of think just bend the knees a little bit, just kind of unlock them a little bit, bend them a little bit, and then from there go straight down. So here, I'm going to unlock them a little bit, blow out, straight down. Okay? See how that feels for you. Give it a try.